The silence behind the curtained hallway outside Stage 7 was quiet, almost too quiet. Somewhere in the distance, a crew member dropped a metal tray, and the clang echoed down the concrete corridor. But inside the small makeup room, the world had gone still, and a armas sat on the old leather couch with her hands over her face. She wasn't crying, not yet. But the tears were waiting just behind her breath, behind her ribs, behind the weight she carried all week. She wasn't supposed to break. Not here, not now, and not in front of anyone. But she wasn't alone. Keanu Reeves leaned gently against the doorframe, a paper cup of black coffee in his hand, untouched, cooling. He had knocked once, soft, polite. He had asked, "Can I come in?" And when she didn't answer, he came in anyway, but only part way. He didn't sit down. He didn't speak again. He just stood there, present but not pressing, like an old friend who knew sometimes the best words were the ones you didn't say. Anna had been holding it together for days. The media had been cruel again, pulling apart her latest interview, twisting her silence into arrogance, her nervous laughs into vanity. It wasn't new. It wasn't even surprising anymore. But something about this week had cut deeper. Maybe it was the way her director shouted at her yesterday in front of everyone. Maybe it was how the magazine had printed a lie about her walking off set. Or maybe it was just everything, all at once. And now, here she was, back against the couch, chest rising unevenly, makeup smeared from hours under lights and pressure, no cameras, no fans, just the truth of her exhaustion. Keanu still hadn't moved. Anna finally looked up, her eyes red but dry. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice soft, almost broken. Keanu didn't smile. He didn't nod. He just said, "Because I saw you." That was it. 4 words. No lecture, no advice. Just a moment of human recognition. Anna looked away. "I'm fine," she whispered. But even she didn't believe it. Keanu took a step forward. Not close. Just enough. "You don't have to be," he said. She laughed, sharp and tired. "That's what everyone says, until you're not. Then they say you're unstable, dramatic, hard to work with." He sat down, then not next to her, but on the small bench across from her. He set the coffee cup on the floor between them. "They say that because they don't know what breaking feels like," he said. "They only see the pieces, not the weight that cracked you." Anna closed her eyes. The silence stretched again, long and safe. She thought of her mother back home, how she used to rub Anna's back when she couldn't sleep as a child. No words, just presence. She remembered a moment when she was 10, hiding in her room after being bullied at school. Mother never asked what happened. She just sat there beside her, humming an old lullaby right now. Keanu reminded her of that. Not a co-star, not a legend. Just a quiet soul who knew what it meant to carry pain with grace. "You ever feel like this whole world is pretending?" Anna said suddenly, "Like we're all performing even when the cameras are off." Keanu nodded slowly. "Every day." She looked at him. "So why keep going?" He leaned back against the wall. "Because sometimes in the middle of all the pretending, someone sees you, really sees you. And that makes it real again." Anna felt the tears start to rise, uninvited, unstoppable. But this time she didn't fight them. She let one fall. Then, another. They weren't loud. They didn't need to be. She wasn't falling apart. She was letting go. Keanu didn't speak. He just stayed. She asked, "Why do you always do that?" "Do what?" "Listen," without fixing anything. He looked down at his hands, old calluses from a younger man's stunts still visible. "Because most people don't need fixing," he said. "They need space to feel." Anna wiped her face. "That's rare." "So are you," he replied. Gently, she let the words sit in the room like warm light through a window. Not praise, not flattery. Just truth, said softly enough to believe. Outside the room, someone knocked. A production assistant reminding her the scene was ready. Anna didn't move right away. She looked at Keanu, her voice steadier now. "Will you? Stay until I go." "I'll be right here," he said. And he was. She stood slowly, gathered her things, fixed nothing, changed nothing, just stood a little straighter, because someone had seen her, someone had listened. Not as a star, not as a symbol, but as a soul, and that was enough for today. The mirror neverless Sana stood in front of the mirror inside her trailer, both hands pressed flat against the counter. The light bulbs around the frame buzzed softly. She had just wrapped the final scene for the day, an emotionally draining monologue that left her voice raspy and her limbs trembling. The makeup team had already cleared out. Everyone had, but she stayed behind. Her reflection looked hollow, not ugly, not broken, just faded, like someone who had been trying too hard to be someone else for too long. Outside, the sky was dimming. The soft purple glow of dusk leaked in through the tiny trailer window. She could still feel the weight of Keanu's silence from earlier. The safety of it. It's the way it didn't demand anything from her. He hadn't texted, hadn't knocked again. But she knew he was nearby. The silence inside the trailer was different now. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. Anna leaned forward and whispered to her reflection, "I'm tired." The mirror offered no comfort. It only gave back what it saw. A soft knock on the trailer door broke the moment. One knock. 2 seconds of quiet. Anna turned. "Come in," she said. The door creaked open and Keanu peeked his head in. "May I?" She nodded. He stepped inside holding something wrapped in brown paper. He handed it to her without explanation. She took it slowly and unwrapped the paper to find a small notebook, simple, hand-bound, with a red ribbon stitched along the edge. Nothing fancy, no brand, no label. "What's this?" she asked. "A space," he said. Anna flipped it open. The first page had one sentence written in neat, steady handwriting. "You don't owe the world your strength every day." She stared at it. The words weren't loud. They weren't poetic. But they felt like a hand on her back, steadying her. "You wrote this?" she asked. Keanu shrugged. "I wrote it for me. A long time ago. But I thought maybe it could help you now." Anna sat on the couch and let the notebook rest in her lap. "Do you write a lot?" "Not much. It's just when the words won't leave me alone." She nodded. "I get that." They sat together again. No scripts, no makeup, no fans. Just two people who had seen too much too quietly. "You ever feel like you're two people?" Anna asked after a long pause. "How do you mean?" Keanu replied. "Like, there's the version everyone sees. The one that's strong, graceful, unbothered. And then there's the version that wakes up at 3 a.m. Can't breathe because everything feels too loud inside your head." Keanu leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I don't feel like two people. I feel like a person with two rooms. One for the world, one for myself. And sometimes the walls between them get too thin." Anna breathed in deep, then smiled faintly. "We always talk like a monk." He chuckled. "I listen to monks." "Of course you do." They both laughed, soft and genuine. It was the first laugh Anna had let out in days. But then her smile faded. "Can I ask you something? Anything? Have you ever just wanted to quit? Not acting, not life, just the pressure, the constant watching, the expectations." Keanu didn't answer right away. He looked out the small window. Dusk had deepened into night. "Yes," he said. "Many times. Especially when people start confusing who you are with who they want you to be. So why didn't you?" He turned to her. "'Cause there was always one person, someone quiet, someone kind who reminded me that I wasn't alone." Anna's eyes welled again. But this time they didn't spill. "You're that person for me right now," she said. Keanu looked away, almost shyly. "Then let me stay that way, as long as you need." They sat for a long while, saying nothing more then. Anna opened the notebook again. She turned the page and saw it was blank. She picked up a pen from the table and wrote, "Today, someone saw me without asking me to smile." The ink bled a little. The words weren't perfect, but they were real. Keanu stood. "I'll let you rest." Nodded, "Thank you for seeing me." He paused at the door, then said, "You're more than what they write about you, Anna." When he left, she stayed on the couch, the notebook in her hands. The silence full but not lonely. Outside, the night pressed gently against the trailer, and for the first time in days, Anna didn't feel like running away. When the light feels heavy, the next morning arrived like a whisper instead of a shout. Anna woke before her alarm, wrapped in the hush of early dawn. Outside her window, the sun hadn't fully risen. The sky was a soft gray, like it hadn't decided. Yet whether it wanted to shine or not, she sat up slowly, the thin hotel blanket falling around her waist. Sleep had visited her gently, and for once, it hadn't left her with that sharp ache behind her eyes. Maybe it was the notebook. Maybe it was Keanu. Maybe it was just the simple kindness of being allowed to be quiet, but still something inside. Her felt uncertain, like the ground was stable now, but it might shake again at any moment. On set, everything looked normal. People bustled, lights buzzed, cameras rolled. But Anna felt different. Not fixed, not healed, just different. She walked to her mark, lips pressed together, script pages folded in her pocket. The director shouted directions. Crew members moved around her like waves. The makeup artist touched up the corner of her eye, and then just before the cameras rolled, Anna saw him, Keanu, sitting behind the monitor, hands folded, watching quietly. He didn't wave, didn't nod, but his eyes met hers, steady and soft, and for some reason, that was enough to help her breathe. The scene started. It was an argument scene. Our character had just found out the truth. She was supposed to cry. She was supposed to fall apart on camera, in front of the man who had lied to her, and for the first time in days, Keanu didn't have to force the emotion. It was already there. Not the ugly kind of crying. Not the dramatic performance. It's just the kind of sadness that leaks through your voice when you're too tired to pretend. When the director called, "Cut," the set went quiet. The assistant director clapped softly. Cinematographer gave a thumbs up. But Anna just stood there, frozen in the feeling she had just poured out. Then she heard a voice, low, calm, familiar. Take 5. It was Keanu. He had spoken to the director on her behalf. Anna walked off set and found a small patch of shade behind a backdrop wall. She sat on an overturned crate, pulled her knees close, and looked at the ground. Keanu came around the corner. "Slowly? You okay?" He asked. "No," she said honestly. He nodded, not pushing for more. "That scene felt too real," she whispered. "Maybe because you finally let yourself be real." "I'm scared, Keanu. What if people don't like who I really am?" He sat beside her, their shoulders not quite touching. "They don't have to. Only you do." She looked at him. "Is it that simple?" "No," he said. "But it's a place to start." She smiled faintly. "How did you learn all this?" He shrugged. "I've had enough quiet in my life to listen to what hurts." Anna thought about that. She remembered something from years ago, a red carpet event in Paris. She had been wearing a silver dress. The crowd had cheered. Flashbulbs lit the sky, but she'd felt so alone that night. She had gone back to her hotel room and cried in the shower for an hour. No one had known until now. No one had even asked, "Do you ever miss being unknown?" She asked him suddenly. "Sometimes," he said. "But then I think if I was still unknown, I couldn't be here for you like this." Those words sank deep into her chest. "You really mean that?" she asked. "Yes," he said. Because kindness doesn't need an audience, just needs a moment. They sat there for the rest of the break. No more words, just shared stillness. When they returned to set, Anna felt lighter, not light, just lighter. That afternoon, someone from the studio pulled her aside to ask about a magazine interview. They wanted her on the cover. They wanted her to smile, wanted her to look happy. Anna almost said yes out of habit, but then she thought of the notebook Keanu had given her. The one in her bag, the one with her own words on the second page. Today. "Someone saw me without asking me to smile. Not this time," she told them. The assistant looked surprised. "Are you sure?" Anna nodded. "I don't want to pretend today." They walked away, confused. But Anna stood taller later that evening. She returned to her trailer and opened the notebook again. She wrote, "Saying no is hard. but today I did. And it didn't break me. Then she smiled as she stepped outside. Keanu was leaning against the fence nearby, sipping tea this time instead of coffee. "You okay?" he asked, the same way he always did. She nodded, getting there. He handed her a second cup. "Then let's keep walking." They didn't go far. Just around the set, under the growing moonlight. Between cables and crew vans and whispered conversations, but with each step, Anna felt something coming back. Not her old self, not the version people wanted, but something better, something real. The truth between seeing us next morning began with the sharp buzz of her phone. Not an alarm, not a friendly message. It was a media alert. Anna rubbed her eyes and sat up slowly. Her body still ached from yesterday's emotional scenes. She unlocked the screen and saw her name trending again. But this time wasn't about her acting. It was a blurry photo someone had snapped a shot of her and Keanu walking around the set last night. The headline underneath was careless. Ana de Armas seen leaning on Keanu Reeves during emotional breakdown. She stared at it, heart sinking. The article speculated everything: her mental health, their relationship, her professionalism. Words, like fragile and unstable, were thrown around like confetti. No mention of the work she had done. No mention of the scene she had delivered yesterday with raw honesty. Just gossip. Assumptions. She turned the phone off. But the damage had already been done. On set, the air felt different. People stared longer, whispered quieter, smiled less. Anna moved through the crowd like a ghost. Not invisible, just misunderstood. During lunch, she sat alone in the corner of the lot, her food untouched, her thoughts spinning. She didn't cry. Not yet. Not again. She felt numb. Then she heard footsteps behind her, slow. Familiar. Keanu sat down without a word. He placed a small paper bag between them. "What's that?" she asked, voice dull. "Banana bread," he said, "from a little cafe down the street." She didn't reach for it. He didn't push. "You saw the article," she said flatly. "Yes," he replied. "They made it sound like I'm falling apart. It's because they don't understand what healing looks like." And I looked away. "It's not fair." "No," he agreed. "It's not." She finally looked at him, searching for something in his face. Engagement. Disappointment. But there was none. Only that same steady calm. "Aren't you upset?" she asked. "They dragged you into it too." Keanu smiled faintly. "Have been dragging me into things for decades. I've stopped holding their words." "How do you do that?" she whispered. "By remembering their version of me isn't mine." Anna let out a slow breath. It was shaky. "But everyone sees it. Everyone reads it. They'll forget it by tomorrow," he said. "But you'll still be here, and you get to decide who that is." They sat in silence for a moment. The sun was high now, but the warmth didn't reach her skin. "I feel like I'm losing myself," she said. Keanu reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Read this later," he said, handing it to her. She took it carefully. "What is it?" "Something I wrote a long time ago, when I felt the same way." She tucked it into her notebook without opening it. They finished lunch quietly. She didn't eat the bread, but she held the bag in her lap like it mattered. And it did. That afternoon, they filmed a rooftop scene. Yana's character had to scream into the wind, full of grief and anger. The wind machines were loud. The city, backdrop behind her, felt too real. But when the director called action, Ana didn't need to act. She screamed not like the script told her to, but like someone who had been holding too much for too long. The sound ripped through her throat. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't polished. It was honest. When the scene ended, the set went still. No one clapped. No one moved. And then slowly, Keanu approached. Not as an actor, not even as a friend, just as someone who understood. He handed her a bottle of water. She drank without speaking. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, just raw. "That's not weakness," he said. "That's courage." She looked at him, tears just behind her eyes again. "They're going to twist this too," she said. "Let them." What? "People who matter will see past the noise, the ones who don't. They were never looking at you anyway. She wanted to believe him, so she tried. That night in her hotel room, she finally opened the folded paper he gave her. The handwriting was a little uneven, older. Raw, it read, "You will be misunderstood. You will be judged for the way you fall and the way you rise. But you are not their version of you. You're the quiet strength they will never be able to write about properly. You are the breath between the noise." She pressed the note to her chest, then opened her notebook and wrote, "They don't see the real me. But he does. And maybe that's enough to keep going." The day the storm came and rain fell hard on the soundstage roof that morning. Thick, heavy drops that made it sound like the sky was knocking, begging to be let in. Everything felt slower on set, darker, like the world had turned the brightness down, and no one noticed but Anna. She had barely slept. The note from Keanu rested under her pillow. She kept rereading the line, "You are the breath between the noise." Every time she said it in her head, it sounded like a secret promise. But even so, her chest still felt tight. Like something was coming, something she couldn't name. When she arrived on set, the stares had returned. Softer this time, but still sharp enough to sting. She had learned to wear quiet like armor, but it wasn't bulletproof. Today's single quotes as scene was difficult. Not physically, but emotionally. Her character had to break down during a phone call. Not the loud kind of breakdown, the silent one. Kind where you smile while your heart cracks. Anna tried, but nothing came out. The director called cut. Frustration. In his voice, "Let's go again." They reset. Lights adjusted. Camera ready. Action. Anna picked up the phone prop again, raised it to her ear, tried to pull from that deep place, but again, dash nothing. Cut. Again, cut. Again, cut again. After the fifth take, the director's voice wasn't patient anymore. "What's going on with you today?" he asked, arms crossed, tone sharp. Anna blinked at him, trying to find words. She opened her mouth, but only air came out. Someone from wardrobe whispered something under their breath. Anna caught the word fragile. She looked around the room and realized she was surrounded, but not supported. She turned and walked off set. No one stopped her outside. The rain still poured. She stood under a small awning by the side entrance, hair damp, skin cold. Her breathing was shaky now. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold it in. Then she heard it again, his footsteps. Keanu didn't say anything. Not right away. He just stood beside her, looking out at the rain. After a while, he spoke gently. "You don't have to talk. Not to them. Not even to me." Anna's voice was almost broken. "I feel like I'm disappearing, Keanu." He looked at her. Really looked. "Then let me remind you that you're still here." She turned toward him, her eyes finally spilling. "I couldn't do the scene," she said. "I tried. I wanted to. But it's like something locked inside." He nodded. "That happens when the real pain gets too close. Your body protects you. It freezes. They think I'm weak. They're wrong." But Anna wiped her face with her sleeve. "I feel like I don't belong here anymore." Keanu stepped in front of her, not too close. Just enough so she would listen. "Listen to me," he said quietly. "Your presence here is not up for debate. Your worth is not measured by how well you pretend when your heart is heavy." Anna looked down. He continued, "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" She shook her head slowly. "I see someone standing in the storm and still choosing not to hide. I see strength, not the loud kind. Ow. The kind that doesn't need to shout to be real." Ow. She exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. "I want to keep going," she whispered, "but I don't know how." "Then let's figure it out one step at a time," he said. "No performances, just presence." They stood in silence for a few more moments, rain still falling around them like a curtain, hiding the rest of the world. Anna took out her notebook, flipped to a blank page, and wrote, "Today." I froze. But someone stayed beside me anyway. Maybe that's what healing looks like. Not perfection, just being held when you can't move. Later that day, the director wanted to reschedule the scene. Anna asked to try one more time. He looked skeptical, impatient, but he agreed. This time, she didn't act. She sat down, held the phone. and thought of all the things she couldn't say out loud, and the tears came, soft, real, not for the character, but for herself. The room was quiet when it ended. No clapping, just stillness, and then Keanu, watching from the side, simply placed his hand over his heart. She nodded at him through her tears, and in that moment, everything felt exactly as it should. Not perfect, but true. Where the silence bloom's final day of filming came with golden light. Not the fake kind from set lamps, but real. Soft morning sun slipping through high windows and casting long, quiet shadows across the floor. There was a hush in the air, like the whole set was holding its breath. People moved slower. Voices were lower. Even the usual buzzing energy of a rap day felt distant. Anna sat alone in her trailer, the little red-stitched notebook open across her lap. So many pages now held pieces of her heart-inked words she had written in moments no one else had seen. Moments of stillness. Moments of breaking. Moments of returning to herself. She turned to a blank page and wrote slowly, "It doesn't hurt the same way anymore. Not because the world is softer, but because I've stopped making myself smaller to survive it." A soft knock at the door pulled her from the page. She didn't need to ask who it was. "Come in," she said. Keanu stepped inside. He wasn't carrying tea. He wasn't holding a notebook. It's just his usual quiet presence, and something different in his eyes, something proud. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded, "As ready as I'll ever be." They walked together to the final scene. The crew was already in place, adjusting lights, setting marks. The director gave a few instructions, but kept his voice calm, respectful now. Maybe something had changed in him too. Anna stood in her place. This scene was simple. No dialogue. Her character was walking away from a relationship, finally choosing herself. No crying. No yelling. Just one look back. And then forward. When the camera rolled, Anna didn't act. She just walked. And when she looked back, her eyes found Keanu's behind the camera, not the character's eyes. Not even the crew's. Just his. Steady, supportive, seeing her. And then she turned and walked forward, sunlight catching in her hair. The director whispered, "Cut." No one moved for a long second, then soft claps. Not the usual celebratory cheer. Something quieter. Anna stood still, letting the moment land in her chest, and then she exhaled. It was done. Someone handed her flowers. Someone else hugged her quickly. There were smiles, congratulations, photos being taken. But through it all, her eyes searched for one person. She found Keanu standing near the edge of the stage, waiting like he always had, not in the spotlight, but never far. She walked over, holding the flowers to her chest. "Thank you," she said. He smiled gently. "You did this, not me." She said, "You stayed when I couldn't." That changed everything. He looked down as if her words felt heavy and soft at the same time. "You were never breaking, Anna," he said. "You were unfolding." She blinked hard. Those words would stay with her for years. They stepped outside together. Into the afternoon sun, Keanu handed her something smaller, wrapped item in a cloth napkin. "What's this?" she asked. "Banana bread," he said, smiling. She laughed. This time, fully no weight behind it. Just real joy. "You're serious?" She grinned. "From the same cafe," he said. "Maybe today you'd actually eat it." She sat on a bench near the parking lot and unwrapped it carefully. Broke off a piece. Tasted it. "This is amazing," she said with her mouth full. "Told you." They sat in silence again, the comfortable kind now, the kind that didn't feel like hiding. Anna looked around. "I'm going to leave law for a while," she said. Keanu nodded slowly. "Where to? Home, maybe? Or somewhere quiet? I need space. To feel things. To write." He looked at her with something close to admiration. "That's brave." "No," she said. "That's necessary." They watched the sun move across the sky. For a while, no words passed between them. Then Anna said, "Will you still write to me?" Keanu raised an eyebrow. "You mean in the notebook?" She smiled. "Yes. one line at a time. Always, he said. She reached into her bag and pulled out the notebook, handed it to him. Then write one now, before I go. He opened it to the last page, thought for a moment, and wrote slowly. When he handed it back, she read it. The world may never understand your silence, but I always will. She closed the notebook gently, holding it like a fragile thing that had somehow survived the storm. Goodbye, Keanu. He stood and bowed his head slightly. Goodbye, Anna. They didn't hug, didn't promise anything, but as she walked away, she knew something inside her had changed forever. Not because someone had fixed her, but because someone had listened and stayed, and that was enough.